Welcome back to the Spotlight on Sirius XM. I'm Jessica Shaw. I'm so thrilled to be joined by Peter Krause. Oh my gosh, some of the shows that have been such a North Stars and shows that I've loved so much, from Sports Night, Parenthood, Dirty Sexy Money. You know I'm not sleeping on that one. 6 Feet Under, and now, of course, 911, which I watch every single week. It airs Thursdays at 8 on ABC. Bobby Nash, he is like a guy you go to. Also very funny, especially this season. I'm loving it. Okay. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Nice to see you. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Yeah. I'm so happy to see you. Okay, I just want to start with the season 8 premiere because we need to talk about all of the bees. I had about 18,000 panic attacks. I feel like my process. Do you want to hear about my process?
I do want to hear about it.
My process watching every episode of 911 is a lot of anxiety, and then at some point I'm going to cry.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Is that yours also?
I mean, sometimes when I get a shooting schedule, there's some anxiety. If I ever cry, it's in private and I don't talk about it.
What was the first call you got about the show and about Bobby? And what was it? I mean, I don't know. I imagine you've played so many kind of characters, like iconic characters in pop culture history. Do you have this gut check of like, this is one for me?
You mean the call from Ryan Murphy or whatever? Yeah. So Ryan wanted to talk to me about a show that he was developing, and at the time, I'm trying to remember, I think Angela Bassett had already been either cast, or the idea was that she was going to play the police officer on the show. So he came up with
Athena, one of the great characters.
Athena Grant, my television wife of 7 seasons. Yeah, because we're in our 8th, so because we got married the 2nd season.
Yeah. No cruise can keep you down.
The rom-com gone wrong, I call it, the last year's episode, which we'll get to. But Ryan had created this storytelling triangle, called 911, where there's a call center operator, a cop, and then a fire team. And so you're sent on these emergencies in this comic book come to life like world. And it is kind of like a comic book in that we live through things that normal people would not live through. It's like a Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner cartoon sometimes. And a fire engine falling on somebody's leg, and, the next season they're walking just fine. Or rebar through the head, you're fine.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of a funny story where we were doing a TV panel with the television critics, and somebody said, so last season you had a rebar through your head, and, we don't see any signs of that on you. And Kenny Choi said, well, no, makeup puts on a scar if you look in the middle of my forehead. Well, I don't see it. That was her response, that the scar wasn't visible enough for a rebar. But the language of the show is that we move on, and it is a comic book come to life about first responders.
Oh yeah, which is yes. I kind of feel like you have to go for the ride. It really does feel like you just gotta lean in and go for that ride. Like you're like in the season premiere, you're gonna watch a guy in a plane fly into a tornado of bees. You just are.
Yeah. It's 14 million bees that form a tornado. It's a Bee-Nado.
It is a Bee-Nado.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
You're not going to find a Bee-Nado on any other TV show.
No. But Bobby is not Bobby is off this season being a consultant in the Hollywood.
He is a TV consultant. He's a firefighter TV consultant on a firefighting show called Hot Shots. So it's a world within a world, a show within a show. And the actor Callum Blue, who plays Brad Torrance, the star of Hot Shots, is very enamored of Bobby. So one of the fun things about 911 is we start each season with a movie, basically. And Tim Minear, self-proclaimed Irwin Allen of television series. We have done The Poseidon Adventure last year. We've done Earthquake. We've kind of done a version of Towering Inferno, even though we could go deeper into a Towering Inferno. And, who saw the Bee-Nado coming? But the Bee-Nado is really, I'm going to say Bee-Nado a lot, as many times as I can. The Bee-Nado is tied together rather brilliantly. We see the small plane smothered by the bees, and then we see at the end of that first episode that giant tornado of bees, the Bee-Nado. It's a killer Bee-Nado. I just want to remind listeners out there, it's not just bees.
No.
They're killer bees.
They are killer bees. And if
14 million strong.
Yeah, if anyone comes after the makeup team with that one, I'll come for them because you know what doesn't look awesome? Getting
What?
stung by 14 million killer bees.
No, and a guy who used to train me, a kung fu guy named Stephen Ho, actually plays a character who is stung all over the face by bees, and he's also a stunt performer. But the way that the Bee-Nado gets tied in as we move on, it gets more intrinsic, if you will, for the whole 3 episodes.
Well, it's downright artistic, kind of the way that it's sort of like you start off and you think, okay, I know where this is going, and the way that the swarm sort of works its way into different people's lives and storylines.
Yeah. I've met people who don't really watch the show and be like, are you still doing that fire show, that procedural show? And I guess I would say about 911, if you don't watch the show, you don't know.
Yes.
It's not a typical procedure at all. We don't follow the rules of anything else. We do romance, horror, thriller, comedy. We kind of do it all. And so, some of it's heavy emotional stuff like the end of last season. My character, Bobby Nash, had to deal with his past through the character Amir, played by Malcolm Jamal Warner. So it's about forgiveness and letting go and moving forward and all those things. But then we also have a Bee-Nado.
Yeah. It's one of the things I love about the show. I mean, I've been watching this forever. It's a show I watched with my daughter, who was the one who was like, this is the greatest show ever. And
you wait until Halloween.
What's going to happen?
I mean, maybe there's a guy who's got his head stuck in a pumpkin. Because when haven't we all had our head stuck in a pumpkin,
True.
Jessica?
Yeah, literally or metaphorically.
Yeah.
I mean.
Exactly. But the Halloween episode is something special. It's coming up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you and Angela Bassett, did you know each other before? I love the two of you. I root for you guys forever.
My friend David Zabel was running ER, and Angela was making some appearances on ER at the time. And so David Zabel held a fundraiser for Barack Obama. This is back, his first election. Is that right? So Zabel held this thing, and so Angela and I actually got up on stage, didn't know each other at the time, and stumped for Obama at the time. And then we did so Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson do stage readings for charity, and they one year did A Midsummer Night's Dream. And so Angela and I were both in that, playing different characters, but we never really spent a significant amount of time with each other, and now she's my longest standing scene partner. Heading into our 8th season, and I think we'll hit 120 some episodes this season.
Wow.
So
do you buy yourself a big present when you hit 120?
I just trying to get rest is all.
Well, you're probably, getting to be on a set has probably been a little bit, at least you're not running through buildings.
It has been a little bit of a break, although now my schedule's starting to ramp up again. I'm starting to get busy on the show again. But it was really nice in the beginning of the season. I can't talk about everything, but because Angela was involved in a different part of the Bee-Nado emergency, if you will, and I'm not with the fire team. It was kind of nice to be off in this other world, and there's more of that coming up as well, and it's really fun, and it's going to continue. That situation, Tim Minear is running with it, so he's gonna milk that hot shot situation for a while.
It is so funny, and I have to say, it's really fun to watch you do comedy, which is something that I feel like you've been doing for a long time. And then there are people who, you've somehow, a testament to your talent, but you really have been incredibly successful in both in comedy and in drama. And so it's funny because I think that people who know you only from drama are like, oh, he's really freaking funny. And just the way you will do a line reading or give a look or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's Peter. He's he's a comic actor.
Because of all the attention that 6 Feet Under got, and justifiably so, people tend to think of me in that sort of more emotional realm. But I did start doing sketch comedy with Carol Burnett all the way back in 1990, and certainly Parenthood had lots of threads of comedy in it. And then I think for 911, the more action and comedy, the better.
Yeah.
Because earlier you said it did make you cry.
Yeah, it does, but it is super fun. But because there's always some emotional moment. There's in episode 2, there's the kid, and I'm rooting for the kid. There's always something.
Oh, believe me, it started with me. The flashbacks of losing my family and all that, and I did think at that time, what have I done? This guilt-ridden character, is he just going to be weighed down by guilt for this whole time? And thankfully, I think now after 7 seasons, and with what we did last season again with Malcolm. And that sort of forgiveness, and he's letting go.
Yeah.
So why can't you?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you remember about like auditioning for Carol Burnett, for Carol and Co. back in what, 90, 91?
1990. I don't remember much. I was fresh out of school. I graduated from NYU here in New York City in May, and then I was bartending on Broadway.
Sure.
You know, at the theaters. And then I had this audition, and they said they're going to fly you to LA. I'm like, okay, I've never been there before.
You're like, I get a flight?
Yeah, I get a free flight to LA. And I think it was a blur. I think I was just in an absolute brain fog about it all. And I just tried to do a good job with the audition material. And the thing that struck me when I landed in LA and I was driven to the hotel I was staying at, which I think was the Sheraton Universal City. We drove down La Cienega, and there are all these oil derricks pumping oil. And I just was amazed that, well, it's just oil.
Yeah.
They're just pumping oil out of the ground here. I had no idea.
Yeah. It's that part that, because I know exactly what you're talking about, because when I moved to LA, I had the same reaction. Like at a certain point, you're like in what you think of LA, you know, in some ways. And then all of a sudden, when you're going to the airport and you hit that like far enough south on La Cienega, you're like, where am I?
Yeah. I thought, oh, I'm going to see palm trees. I'm going to see people in convertibles. Everybody's going to be wearing sunglasses, rolling around on roller skates. I just had an image of Los Angeles that, obviously from the movies and TV, that wasn't entirely true.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Shocker. Who would have thought? Did you, at the time, and you were like a kid right out of college and you're working opposite Carol Burnett, were you aware of like, holy shit, I'm like scene partner with a legend?
I was aware, but she is so incredibly humble and wonderful. She just, you know, she disarms you. She's wonderful. It was a tremendous experience. And I was fortunate enough as a kid, we were a TV household. You know, we didn't have a lot of money. So we went to the movies once in a while, but we would have to watch television as a family. So we watched everything together, and generally we watched what my dad wanted to watch. And sometimes we'd watch what my mom wanted to watch if my dad wasn't watching TV. So my mom was the big Carol Burnett fan. So my sister and I would gather with my mom and watch Carol Burnett. My dad would join us sometimes, but my dad was a big Norman Lear fan. So we watched all of that stuff, All in the Family and Good Times and the Jeffersons and all that. And then, you know, we'd also watch Mary Tyler Moore and Bob Newhart, but my dad was a big fan of the half-hour comedy. My mom got us watching the Waltons. My mom got us watching Roots, but we watched as a family. So I still enjoy watching television with other people. I can watch baseball by myself, but I don't really like watching scripted material by myself because growing up, it was something that I shared with my family. So I want to share the experience of viewing something with somebody else. And it's what I lament about the demise of movie theaters in the country, because it was a place where strangers could come together and share a storytelling experience and laugh with each other and be frightened, you know, with each other. And which reminds me, I'm really stream of consciousness here.
Yeah,
Jessica.
do it.
I saw Silence of the Lambs in Los Angeles the night that it came out. So nobody knew anything about the movie unless somebody saw some advance reviews or something like that. And that was a collective experience because it was a packed house. And so all the scares, everything, we were experiencing it communally. And I think that theater going is a really important part of the fabric of the country. And I hope that it comes back. I know during the pandemic, it, you know, significantly eroded, but, you know, it might necessitate Amazon and Apple buying movie theaters and, you know, holding on to some of their material and not distributing it online immediately, and sort of, you know, like shepherding people back into the theaters to enjoy these experiences together. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
is that a pipe dream, Jessica?
Is it a pipe dream? Maybe, because I feel like we're a dying breed. I mean, you know, like there's a whole generation who's like watching, you know, like The Godfather on their phones or whatever, except that they're not watching The Godfather.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing Silence of the Lambs also the night it premiered and trying to like bribe a random person, maybe one of my friends or whatever, to leave the theater with me because I was so scared. I was like, I don't know if I can handle this. I'm so terrified right now.
Did you see it in LA or here?
New York.
Here in New York.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, so it's so good. I wonder, maybe that's also one of the reasons why I love watching 911 so much is I've never watched alone. It is this it's this experience of watching it with my kid. Like this, it's like our thing. This is what we do.
Yeah.
And there's something really really fun about, and I don't have that with a lot of shows, I think.
Yeah. No, but I love that people watch things together, and I hope that people watch 911 together. I know that since we've moved from Fox to ABC, it's been slight, but there's been a little bit of, buffering of the show so that a family could watch together. I still think that because of some of the subject matter on 911, you'd want your kids to be at least, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
That sound fair?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
Or just be like a bad parent like me.
Because
Because
there's gory stuff on there. And there's some, some other subject matter that might be for some parents.
Yeah.
But yeah, the more liberal-minded folks, sure, put your baby in front of the TV and watch some 911. Why not?
Yeah, it's your babysitter. It's your babysitter. Don't worry. It's totally all good.
Yeah, the TV was our babysitter growing up. Yep.
Sure, 100%. That's Gen X. That's what we did. Peter, I first met you when you were doing Sports Night. Why is that show not streaming? That would be one. I don't. Or do you have like old recordings or who even has a VCR anymore? But like DVDs of the show, and do you ever go back and watch that brilliance?
I have DVDs of the show, but I also have DVDs of the gag reel, and those are the best gag reels because we would have to fit the dialogue within a certain time frame because Aaron Sorkin didn't want to lose any of his episodes. So when you watch an episode of Sports Night, you're watching what he wrote. This is not how television is typically made now. You overshoot. You have an episode that a director's cut can come in 15 minutes long, and then it's an editorial project. Aaron Sorkin wanted none of that. He wanted what he wrote on the screen. And so we would get our script supervisor, or he would, to time us with a stopwatch. And so there are certain scenes that needed to be spoken in a certain amount of time so that it would all fit into the episode. And so I'm pretty sure that every episode of Sports Night is as it was written. I could be wrong. There may have been some time issues here and there, and they may have had to truncate some things. But I imagine that most of that was done editorially, and they didn't cut any of his words. That was a magical experience. We started with both a studio audience and a laugh track. We first got rid of the studio audience, then the laugh track. And it was a groundbreaking television show.
Yeah, which was not common.
Started to pave the way for the single camera half hours that didn't have a studio audience or a laugh track. And at the time you had great shows like News Radio and this and that, but I believe that they had a studio audience and a laugh track, I think.
Yeah, I think they did as well.
Yeah.
Did you ever...
I would love that if that would... I don't think there's any way for that to come back. And of course, we've lost Robert Guillaume, but that's a show that I think could have gone on a lot longer. But of course, he was doing The West Wing as well. Starting our second season was the first season of West Wing, and I'm partial. I think Sports Night still today his best show.
Oh,
I do. I like The Newsroom. I'm a huge Jeff Daniels fan.
Yeah,
I thought The West Wing was terrific, but I don't know. Sports Night had a special something to it.
Yes, it did. I feel like maybe like you and the cast of West Wing could I don't know. I like this battle. I like this battle between these or three.
Well, we were funnier for sure.
Of course you were.
Maybe we didn't deal with as important issues, but
No, I loved sport. And your writer's room was amazing. That whole show. Who messed up his lines Aaron Sorkin's lines the most? Because he's one of those people that it's you better not put a the out of place.
Yeah, well, I benefited from knowing him prior as a bartender. We bartended together on Broadway at the Palace Theater, La Cage aux Folles. He was the bar manager. I was a bartender. And so...
Who was in it at the time?
We had Peter Marshall, I think, was in it. And I can't remember anybody else. But so Aaron and I had a really easy relationship in terms of being able to talk to each other or whatever. So he came up to me one day and he said, "Read this line for me." And I said, "It sounds like a lot of people are going to be having sex with a lot of people who aren't me." "That's right. There's no other in there. I don't have a single take of you saying that line without the word other added in there. I've already talked to Carol McKechnie about it." She's our script supervisor. And so that was my greatest offense, was I added an other once. But I was really dutiful because I think that he took such great care writing those scripts. And, the musicality of what he writes. I'd love to work with him again. I love the verbal exercise of working on really good dialogue like that. Because I loved working on Shaw when I was in college and graduate school, Shakespeare, all that stuff. So language-based is something I haven't gotten to do as much since then, and I really enjoyed it. I'd love to work with him again.
Do you want to do theater? Like, do you see yourself
I would come back and do comedy. So the last time I did theater, I did After the Fall. Arthur Miller came and, watched rehearsals and came to some productions. And
That's
tremendous.
crazy.
By the way, the only other writer the only other living writer with whom I've worked, whose writing I haven't altered. So Aaron Sorkin, you're in good company with Arthur Miller.
Yeah. Did you add any others to that?
I haven't. No,
okay.
I've messed.
No,
with
I meant the word
guys.
other.
Did I add any others? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did I add any others to Arthur Miller's? No, I did not.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
To the best of my knowledge.
Good. Few. Did you notice when 6 Feet Under started streaming on Netflix that all of these people, like all of a sudden would be like, and there's Nate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Netflix, there was a burst of new recognition for 6 Feet Under at the time. And it's funny, speaking of that, After the Fall is the play I was doing at the Roundabout. And there was a night and Arthur Miller was there. The light started coming up and then some woman near the front row says, Nate. And of course I'm up there, I have to do a play. And I hear this anyway,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But that was a show in its time where there was a certain segment of the population, that was watching every week because, the episodes are getting doled out by the week. We hadn't gotten into streaming yet. HBO was still the newest, most avant-garde provider out there. And Sex and the City, Sopranos, 6 Feet Under. Yeah. It was a really special time on TV.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like you can say to anyone who watched the show like every week, as I did, you can say the word NARM.
Yeah.
And immediately we're like, yep, that's what happened. That's what it's just like it's this it's like a code. You're like, okay, I know who you are now. You were watching.
It provided me with an experience that I never thought that I was going to have, which is I walked out onto the stage of The Tonight Show and Jay Leno was host at the time and I heard the theme song to 6 Feet Under. And it was just kind of cool to walk out and be like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
I've got a song now that goes along with me on these shows. And that was also an interesting time. Like things have changed, but like getting to go on Letterman and Leno back in the day was something special.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Amazing.
Yeah.
Do you ever look back at you're obviously still in it and doing so much, but do you ever look back and think like, God, I made good choices?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's some choices along the way I don't know if I'd make again, but certainly that span of time.
That better not be talking about Beverly Hills 90210.
I'm not. Well, you like that show?
Obviously.
That's one where I look back and I'm like, oh, that was kind of bizarrely hard for me to be around all these young people who were enjoying this terrific success for a show that I didn't really connect to. Mm-hmm. But what I was going to say is that the 7 years of Sports Night and 6 Feet Under were pretty incredible. Like I didn't envy anybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I just got to do the coolest half hour and now I'm doing the coolest hour show on TV. And you don't get to keep doing them. I remember seeing Rutger Hauer at a director's cut screening of Blade Runner at the theater near Santa Monica and the 405. And I can't remember the name of that theater. And somebody had asked him during the Q&A afterwards, like, why don't you make another movie like Blade Runner? And you just don't, it's just not that easy.
Right. Yeah.
It's not that easy to make another Sports Night, to make another 6 Feet Under. And now I would say to make another 911. Like we kind of carved out a very different and unique space in the procedural world that now if you replicated it, you'd be like, oh, it's trying to be like 911. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would add Parenthood to that too. I mean, another like incredibly special, special show.
I was the pleasure of getting to work with Ron Howard and Brian Grazer twice, Sports Night and also Parenthood. And Jason Katims, of course, took their property Parenthood and took it into new territory. Yeah. And based on some things that he'd experienced himself. And Jason to me is one of the great TV producers, of that era with Friday Night Lights and Parenthood. Fantastic.
Oh yeah, and amazing. And to think about the movie I love so much and the show, like that doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
911 airs Thursdays at 8 on ABC. Peter Krause, you're the greatest.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Jessica.
you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
We will be right back on The Spotlight.